My stepdaughter changed her last name to match her real dad. When he kicked her out, she came back. I gave her a job application. She resigned for being my daughter. I accepted her resignation. They say you can't choose your family, but that's a lie. You choose them every day. You choose to show up. You choose to stay. And sometimes you choose to leave. My daughter, Sandra, made her choice in a courtroom when she was 16 years old. She stood before a judge and chose to erase me from her identity. She didn't just walk away. She took a legal eraser to the 8 years of life I had poured into her. My name is Christopher Randolph. Everyone calls me Chris. I am 48 years old. I'm an architect by trade, which means I understand structures. I understand load-bearing walls. I understand that if you remove the foundation, the roof collapses. Sandra was my foundation, and for 8 years, I was hers. I met Sandra's mother, Elena, when Sandra was 6. Elena was a widow in spirit, if not on paper. Her ex, a man named Victor Valero, had abandoned them when Sandra was a baby to chase a music career that never materialized. He was a ghost in their lives, a name on a birth certificate, nothing more. When I married Elena, Sandra was 8. I didn't just marry the woman, I married the package. I adopted Sandra legally that same year. Victor Valero signed away his rights via mail. He didn't even show up to the hearing. He sent a note that said, "Good luck, kid. The rock star life isn't for dads." So, Sandra became Sandra Bennett Randolph, my daughter. Then, the tragedy struck. When Sandra was 9, Elena died of a sudden aneurysm. It happened in the kitchen on a Tuesday while she was making spaghetti. One minute she was laughing about a stain on my shirt, the next she was gone. It broke us. I was a widower at 39 with a 9-year-old girl who wasn't biologically mine looking at me with terrified eyes, wondering if I was going to leave too. I knelt down in the hospital hallway, ignoring the nurses rushing by. I held her small, trembling shoulders. "Sandra," I said, forcing my voice not to crack. "I'm not going anywhere. It is you and me, Chris and Sandra against the world. We are a team." And for 7 years, we were the best team in the league. I learned how to braid hair by watching YouTube tutorials until my fingers cramped. I learned how to navigate middle school drama, buying ice cream when the mean girls were cruel. I sat in the front row of every choir concert, holding the camcorder like it was a holy relic. I put every dime I had into her college fund. We had a tradition. Every Sunday, we would drive into the city and look at buildings. I would teach her about architecture. "See that cornice?" I'd say, pointing at an old library. "That's detail. That's care. Someone spent a week carving that stone." "It's beautiful, Dad," she would say, holding my hand. That was the word that mattered. Dad, not stepdad, not Chris. Dad. I thought we were solid. I thought the foundation was unshakable. Then came the 16th birthday, the age of curiosity, the age of rebellion. Sandra asked for a DNA test kit. Just out of curiosity, she said over breakfast, spreading jam on her toast. "All the girls at school are doing it. I want to know my ethnicity percentages. Am I Italian? Am I Greek?" I didn't think anything of it. I bought it for her. I thought it was just a high school fad. The results came back 3 weeks later, and with them, a connection request on the Ancestry site. Victor Valero. She messaged him. He messaged back. It started slowly. Texts at dinner. Phone calls in her room with the door closed. The Sunday architecture trips stopped. "I have homework," she'd say, but I'd hear her talking on the phone for hours. Then the deception began. Victor told her everything a 16-year-old wants to hear. He told her he was a big-time music producer in the city. He told her he lived in a converted industrial loft. He told her he never wanted to give her up, but the system and her mother forced him to. He painted himself as the tragic artist and me as the boring captor who stole his child. He was cool. He wore leather jackets and sunglasses indoors. I was just Chris, the boring architect who made her do homework, clean her room, and be home by 10 p.m. Sandra started taking the train to the city on weekends to see him. She'd come back smelling like incense and clove cigarettes, talking about art and freedom. Victor says school is a prison, she told me over dinner one night, pushing her vegetables around the plate with disdain. He says real education happens on the streets. He says the system is designed to crush creativity. Victor isn't paying for your future, I said, trying to stay calm. I am. And in this house, we value education. Math builds bridges, Sandra. Art is great, but engineers keep the world standing. That's all you care about, she snapped. Money and rules. You're so suburban. Victor cares about my soul. He wants to unlock my potential. He says I have a voice. Does his potential pay the mortgage? I asked. You're so cynical, she sneered. Victor says you're a suit, a drone. You wouldn't understand passion. The drift happened fast. In 3 months, she went from my daughter to a stranger living in my house. She stopped calling me Dad. She started calling me Chris. Then came the ultimatum. I want to move in with Victor, she announced on a Tuesday. He has a room for me at his loft. He says I can help him with his studio work. He's working on a platinum album, and he needs an assistant. You're 16, I said. You're not dropping out of school to hang out in a studio with a man you barely know. I know him, she yelled. He's my father. My real father. I am your real father, Sandra. I'm the one who bought your prom dress. I'm the one who sat up with you when you had the flu. I'm the one who paid for your braces. You're my bank account, she screamed. Then she dropped the bomb. I'm getting emancipated, she said. She slapped a folder on the table. Victor got me a lawyer. He says I'm old enough to choose. But there's one more thing. She looked me in the eye. I want to change my name back. I want to be Sandra Valero. I want to carry my real father's name. I don't want to be a Randolph anymore. It feels fake. The air left the room. It felt like she had punched me in the throat. Sandra, I whispered, Randolph is the name on your adoption papers. It's the name of the man who raised you. It's the name on the back of the locket I gave you for your 10th birthday. It's the name of a stepdad, she said, cold as ice. Victor is my dad. I want to be a Valero. I want to belong to the cool side of the family, the artistic side. I looked at her. I saw her mother's eyes, but none of her mother's warmth. I saw a stranger who had been poisoned by a man who hadn't bought her a diaper, let alone a college education. I realized then that I couldn't stop her. If I fought her in court, she would hate me forever. She had to learn. Sometimes you have to let the structure collapse so they can see it wasn't the walls holding them in. It was the walls holding the roof up. Okay, I said, if that's what you want. We went to court. I sat in the back row. I watched her stand before the judge. She looked so grown up and yet so incredibly young. Are you doing this of your own free will? The judge asked. Yes, she said proudly. I want to be Sandra Valero. The judge banged the gavel. Sandra Randolph ceased to exist. I signed the emancipation papers. I signed the permission for her to move. I drove her to the train station with her boxes. I offered to drive her all the way to Victor's loft, but she refused. Victor is picking me up at the station, she said, in his convertible. You're making a mistake, Sandra, I said as she unloaded the trunk. But it's your mistake to make. Just know, once you leave this family, things change. You're choosing to walk away from the protection I offer. I'm not leaving family, she scoffed, grabbing her guitar case. I'm but a family. Real family. Don't wait up, Chris. She got on the train. She didn't look back. The silence in my big house was deafening. I walked into her room. It still smelled like her perfume, vanilla and rebellion. I packed it up. I didn't throw her things away, but I boxed them up, the trophies, the stuffed animals, the locket she left on the dresser, and put them in storage. I turned her bedroom into a guest office. I painted the walls gray. I needed to erase the ghost of the girl who used to live there. For months passed. I saw posts on social media. Sandra at concerts, holding a VIP pass. Sandra in a smoke-filled studio, sitting on a mixing board. Sandra posing with Victor, who looked like an aging rocker trying too hard to be 25. Then, the post stopped. For 3 weeks, radio silence. Then, last Tuesday, my doorbell rang at 10 p.m. It was raining. A cold, miserable November rain. I opened the door. Sandra was standing there. She was soaking wet. She had one duffel bag. She looked thinner, gaunt actually. Her expensive leather jacket was gone, replaced by a cheap hoodie. Her eyes were red and swollen. "Dad," she whispered. I stood in the doorway. My heart lurched, wanted to pull her in, warm her up, fix it. But my head reminded me of the courtroom. It reminded me of the name change. I didn't step aside to let her in immediately. "Hello, Sandra," I said. "Can I come in?" she asked, shivering violently. I stepped back. She walked into the foyer. She dripped water onto the hardwood floors. She looked around the warm, lit hallway like it was a dream she had woken up from. I made a mistake," she said, dropping the bag. She started to cry, a deep, guttural sob. "Victor?" I asked. "He's a fraud," she sobbed. "He's not a producer. He doesn't own the studio. He works there as a janitor and rents the space on weekends to trick girls." "The Grammy on his wall?" "I looked at it close up last week. It's plastic. He spray-painted a toy." She wiped her nose on her sleeve. "He owes money to everyone. The loft isn't his. He's squatting in a friend's place. The power got cut off 3 days ago." "And?" I asked. "And he told me last week that I had to start paying rent," she said. $1,000 a month. He told me to drop out of school and get a job at a dive bar because I have assets I should use. He wanted me to work as a bottle girl." I clenched my jaw. I figured. "I told him I didn't have money," she continued. "And he screamed at me. He said he only reconnected with me because he thought you were sending me child support checks. He thought you would pay him to keep me. He thought you would send checks to Sandra Valero just to keep her safe." "He thought wrong," I said. "When he realized the money tap was off, he called me a parasite," she cried. "He threw my guitar down the stairs. It broke. Dad, I'm so sorry. I want to come home. I want my room back. I'll change my name back. I promise. I'll be Sandra Randolph again." She took a step toward the stairs, toward her old room. "Sandra, stop," I said. She froze, her foot on the bottom step. "You can't go upstairs," I said. "What? What? That's not your room anymore," I said gently but firmly. "I converted it. It's an office now. My drafting table is where your bed used to be." "But where will I sleep?" "You can sleep in the guest room in the basement for 3 days," I said, "while you figure out your next move." "My next move?" She looked confused, panic rising in her eyes. "I live here. You're my dad. This is my house." I took a breath. This was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Every instinct screamed to protect her. But I knew that if I just let her slide back in, if I let her erase the last 4 months without consequence, she would never learn. She would think she could discard people and pick them back up whenever it was convenient. And honestly, something in me had broken the day she changed her name. The bond was severed. I couldn't just retie the knot. "Sandra," I said, "you're 17 now, but you are emancipated. You stood in a courtroom and chose to be independent. Legally, you're no longer my responsibility. When you left, you didn't just move out. You resigned from this family." "But it was a mistake," she cried. "I was stupid. I was 16. And actions have consequences," I said. "You fired me as your father. I accepted your resignation. You are an adult stranger named Sandra Valero. So you're kicking me out?" she screamed. "Like he did? You're no better than him." "No," I said. "I'm helping you. Out of kindness. The same way I would help a friend who was in trouble. But I'm not parenting you anymore." I went to the kitchen and made her tea. She sat at the table, trembling, looking small. "You can stay for 3 days," I repeated. "I will help you find a job. I will help you find a room to rent. But you are not moving back into this house permanently." "Why?" she whispered. "Because this house is for my family," I said. "And you chose to leave it. You chose to be a Valero. Maybe it's time you learned what it means to survive like one." That night, she slept in the basement. I lay awake in my room 2 floors above, listening to the silence of the house. I knew she was down there, probably staring at the ceiling, realizing that just because she was under my roof didn't mean she was back in my life. The basement guest room isn't a dungeon. It's clean and comfortable, but it feels distinct. It feels like a hotel. There are no pictures of her on the walls down there. The sheets are generic white cotton, not the floral pattern she picked out for her room upstairs. It was a physical reminder of the distance between us. The next morning, I drove her to town. I didn't take her to the mall to buy new clothes to replace the ones Victor ruined. I didn't take her to Starbucks. I took her to Miller's Market, a grocery store owned by an old friend of mine, Dave. Dave needs a stocker, I told her in the car. It pays minimum wage. It's hard work, but it's honest. A grocery store? She wrinkled her nose, looking at the drab building with the flickering neon sign. Dad, I can't work here. People from my old school shop here. It's embarrassing. Hunger is embarrassing, I said. Victor wanted you to work at a dive bar. This is better. You can do your GED classes at night. This is reality, Sandra. This is what independence looks like when you don't have a suit paying your bills. I walked her in. Dave, a big man with flour on his apron, interviewed her. He looked skeptical. He knew she was a private school kid. You show up on time, Dave grunted. You don't look at your phone. You stock the shelves straight. Chris says you're a hard worker. Don't make him a liar. I won't, she whispered. Then, I drove her to a boarding house on the edge of town. It was safe, clean, but small. A single room with a shared bathroom down the hall. It smelled like bleach and old carpet. The radiator hissed in the corner. It was cheap enough that she could afford it with the grocery job. I paid the first month's rent and the deposit. This is my gift to you, I said, handing her the key. A fresh start. She stood on the sidewalk, looking at the peeling paint of the boarding house, then at my luxury SUV with the heated seats. You have a 5-bedroom house, she said, tears streaming down her face. And you're putting me here? Alone. I'm putting Sandra Valero here, I said. Sandra Randolph lived in the big house. Sandra Randolph went to private school. But Sandra Randolph doesn't exist anymore. You killed her in court. I hugged her. It was a stiff hug. I felt her ribs. She had lost weight. It took everything in me not to put her back in the car. But I let go. I love you, I said. I will always answer the phone if you call. We can have lunch on Sundays. But you have to build your own life now. You wanted to be an adult? You wanted to be independent for me? This is what it looks like. I got in my car. I watched her walk into the boarding house. She looked terrified. That was 6 months ago. Sandra is still working at the grocery store. She got her GED. She looks tired. She looks humbled. I went shopping there last week. I saw her in aisle 4. She was stocking cans of soup. I saw 2 girls from her old private high school walk by. They were wearing varsity jackets, laughing about a ski trip. They saw Sandra in her green apron, with her name tag that read Sandra. They stopped. They whispered, "Is that Sandra?" I thought she was a producer now. I watched Sandra turn red. Her hand shook. For a second, I thought she would run. But she didn't. She didn't hide. She kept stacking the soup. She nodded at them. "Hey," she said quietly. They walked away, giggling. I was proud of her in that moment. She stayed in the fire. We meet for lunch every Sunday at a diner. I pay. 2 weeks ago, she got her first full paycheck. She brought the stub to lunch. She looked devastated. "Dad," she said, pointing at the numbers. "Where did all the money go? I worked 40 hours. The government took 20%. And after I pay my rent and the bus pass, I have $40 left for food." "That's called taxes," I said, eating my omelet. "And cost of living. Welcome to the real world, Sandra." "How did you do it?" she asked, looking at me with new eyes. "How did you pay for the house? And the car? And the tuition?" "I worked," I said, "for 20 years. I didn't chase cool. I chased stability. I chased the ability to take care of my family." She nodded slowly. For the first time, she wasn't looking at me as a wallet. She was looking at me as a man who had carried a heavy load without complaining. Last week, she reached into her purse. She pulled out a glass jar. It was filled with crumpled 1s, 5s, and coins. "I'm saving up," she said quietly, stirring her coffee, "to change my name back. It costs $400 for the filing fee, and another $200 for the lawyer to file the motion." I looked at the jar. I saw the struggle in those crumpled bills. I saw the lunches she skipped. I saw the extra shifts she picked up. "I have $120 so far," she said. "It's going to take me a few more months." I looked at her. I saw a flicker of the girl I raised. I saw the grit she had developed. That's a good goal, I said. I didn't offer to pay it. I have the $400 in my wallet right now. It would be nothing to me. But I didn't reach for it. I paid for everything for Sandra Randolph. Sandra Valero has to pay for herself. And when she finally walks into that courtroom and pays that fee with her own sweat and tears, she will know exactly what that name is worth. She will know that being a Randolph isn't a birthright. It's an earned privilege. And maybe, just maybe, when she changes it back, I'll unlock the storage unit and give her the locket back. But not a moment before. Have you ever had to practice tough love to protect yourself? Do you think the punishment fits the crime of rejecting a parent? If you believe that actions have consequences, hit that like button and subscribe. Hashtag tough love.